the second half. They managed to find another gear. Can they do it with time running out? There is Ingram to bat the ball away. Williams could tie it with a three. He goal! Tied at 38 seconds to go.
Oh, what are you doing? He threw him out of the ball game. You gotta be picking me. What in the hell are you doing? What are you doing, Wagner?
No, listen, stick around the game. You listen to an old veteran like me. I'll show you how to talk on the air, boy. Yeah, talk, you know, to TV. No, really, TV, cameras and going on and shit like that. Huh? I'm telling you, man. I'll show you how to make a living with this stuff. I'll show you how to have the people eating right out of here.
Vietnams or Chinese or Japanese. You my opposer when I want freedom. You my opposer when I want justice. You my opposer when I want equality. You won't even stand up for me in America for my religious beliefs, and you want me to go somewhere and fight, but you won't even stand up for me here at home.
All right. We're here. We're here. We're back.
Hello.
I forgot you guys can see me now
We're back.
because I got that second camera, and so I could just like give you like a time to go. Like, I'll work on that next time. I'll do that next time. I'll do more like directorial moves.
Crate him down the hatch. Here we go.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I'm very excited. We had some promotional materials. We have some promotional materials being made up for our super stream coming up in December. With Gabe Fernandez, and I made it very clear that Nathan needed to be shoveling kratom in his mouth for the for the picture. And let me just say, the guy doing the art, he very much delivered. It's even better than I thought it was going to be. So
wait, I haven't seen it.
I thought I showed it to you. I'll send it to you offline. It's
buried. It's buried. Some chap.
Yeah. So yeah,
it was very good to me. I was like, he made me very slim. I was very happy with how I turned out. He took a lot of liberties in a good way with me, so that was good.
Oh, man.
Yeah. It's always important to when you have an artistic rendering of you to have it be better than how you perceive yourself. Yeah.
Oh.
And you don't want to lose the how upsetting it was to watch you take that spoonful of stuff, though.
Rob, are you not a kratom fan? You don't.
I'm not extremely experienced. I just didn't. It looked like he was having some sort of like. You remember the Serbian war criminal guy that committed suicide at the end? Like the vibe was not dissimilar to that, but it was like what I have taken is kratom, and everybody's like no, but yeah. That's anyway. Now that I know. Yeah, I thought it was like I don't know, like a protein powder or something, and I was you're doing that wrong.
Oh no!
I thought you were a podcaster. All podcasters have to take kratom.
I'm holding out. I want to get the right deal because it's like a host read ad or whatever. I want to make sure that I can endorse it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't talk about a Casper mattress unless I had one.
I can't believe Deadspin. Deadspin maybe would have survived had it just been all ads for kratom. Like people would be like,
yeah,
this is tolerable. Like
let's not assume that that's not going to happen. I mean, given the ads that were on the site by the time we left, where it was like all these different things that were like, your flash is out of date, and like my dad's like, oh, it's out of date. Like that shit is like really not a level up from like kratom programmatic advertising.
I can't wait for like 5 years from now when there's just an autoplay ad of me like, here's the kratom, and just doing that like 20 times.
Like kratom, my king. Play kratom.
come kratom, my lord. Yeah, that's right.
Oh yeah. So if you can't figure out from the name underneath his picture, we have David Roth, the esteemed big wet biographer, is I believe the name I came up for you today.
I took it as a compliment, but it's an upsetting combination of words. I lied to you about it, but
It is. Did you start the big wet thing for the president, or did you start the big wet thing for the pitchers?
no, it started with the president. I feel like it's hard to tell though, that like I feel like a lot of this stuff is sort of like context collapse has destroyed my mind, and that like when I started writing about like the wet baseball players thing, I realized that like what I was talking about was Jason Giambi fundamentally, or like Clay Buchholz and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And Giambi to me is like really spiritually a cousin of Trump, just in terms of being like sort of an odious New York character who was always on the back of the Post where they were like, Dick stuck in Lamborghini again, just like all these like fucking scumbag New York problems. So they're not like dissimilar dudes in some ways.
Yeah. It's funny how Trump brain has infected us all, and now big and wet have just like, Trump brain is just like, you describe everything in about 5 sort of describers. Like, oh, Giambi, he's big, he's wet.
Yeah,
he's wet.
We love it. And you see it, and it's all these like mincing back and forth thing is really like, it's too easy to do. I think it's because like it's the last thing your brain does before it shuts down all the way. Like the way that he likes to like pair things, the way that like every time he talks about like getting like hugged by a troop, and then he's like, he hugged me, he kissed me, and then he's like, he didn't kiss me. But it's like his brain is just like, when he says hug, like the last like wheezing like cells in his brain are like, and kiss. Like it's just like all that's left in there.
Constantly getting little micro doses of DMT, just released little tiny bit at a time.
And when it's all gone, he's just gonna be like, they'll just prop him up in front of a television, and it'll be like, and that'll be that. That could happen at any time. But
I think it was like Tom Sexton who was saying like Trump literally just says like what someone could possibly be thinking, but no one would ever say, like in any given moment. And
that's and he gets credit for being honest with that, when really it's just that like it's just fucking gone. Like it's all gone. And so like it's authentic in the sense that like you can't like fake pooping either, like you can't like, but it's the same, like fundamentally it's the same shit.
Literally.
Yeah. Well,
Right, well, it's great visiting with you guys. Thanks for having me. All right.
Yeah, really. Yeah, that's a lot to chew on for us. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, we're getting like so quickly into Trump. Like we were planning on doing Trump, and then we just started riffing on Trump, and now I'm like, do we do the Trump? Do we just go? And I feel like we should. It's a very. I
want to hear it.
Nate's been telling
you want to hear about the Trump baby, folks? Do you want to hear it? Do we do
they won't let me tell you. They don't want me to say it. They don't want me to say it. Did you hear it?
They said they wanted me to do the Trump story. If I do the Trump story, they're gonna get mad at me. I should do it. I'm gonna do it.
Oh man.
Yeah, well, Nate's been telling us about this Trump baby story, but he won't like tell us the actual full story. He's like, I gotta save it. I gotta save it. He's been telling us for like 3 hours. So it's pervading my thoughts, like Ryan Klesko.
You know this story very well as a player. Let's hear it though, because I haven't been on for 3 hours, but I've already gotten a hint.
And I will say, as the preeminent Trump critic, the man who's most in the Trump mind space, you can at any point hit the big Trump button, and we can stop talking about Trump. I know at any time. I need this to warm up. I have to write something tonight, so this is great. This is like a stretching session.
This is like watching. This is getting to watch like Ichiro when he goes in that big truck that follows him around in all the games, with all sorts of mysterious equipment.
Just get in there and get loosened up. I was thinking more like lying on the half court logo while like Nate like stretches my hamstrings. And he's like, it's not weird. It's not weird when they do it. But, all right, so let's hear it.
All right, I thought this could just be a story we talk about, but I had to read it out. It got me right off the bat. The title for this story, Washington Post, is "Baby Trump Balloon Slasher Says He Took a Stand for Good versus Evil." Okay, so had me right at the first sentence. Hoyt Hutchinson, a man charged with slashing a giant baby Trump balloon with a knife outside the Alabama LSU game, told a radio show Monday that he took action because, in quotes, it comes a point when you got to take a stand.
So true.
Hutchinson, who is charged with first-degree criminal mischief and is free on bond, called in to the Rick and Bubba show on Monday.
Like you joke about that. I am actually familiar with the Rick and Bubba show because I do broadcast that on Sunday mornings in North Carolina. So I have heard it.
Who are Rick and Bubba? Is either one of them like a former athlete, or are they just two guys?
They're just syndicated guys. They do a lot of jokes about flea markets. Yeah, they're really.
That's kind of my shit. I'm fine with that.
No, it's actually kind of funny. Yeah.
I should go on there and talk about goodwill as like a cultural ambassador.
This is wild. David, do you want to take a guess with how I looked this up? Incredible. How long of a show they do? What's the average? What's the show length?
Whatever it's going to be, it's more than we can bear. Is it 4 hours?
It's 5 hours.
I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
It's a 5-hour show.
Take that back.
5 hours.
You have
of
to
radio.
respect it.
Can you imagine doing 5 hours of radio?
Oh my god! And especially because it's like fucking syndicated SEC stuff. It's like you can't talk about like the NBA or whatever because your listeners will be like, "Oh fuck this PC shit." So like you basically have to talk for 5 hours about like Arkansas football.
Oh yeah.
Is this every day?
I want to say it's like I think it's I only get it on the weekends, so I don't know how often they do it.
All right.
Yeah, but
5 hours is a lot. Even if you just did that once a week,
that's an insane amount of radio to do it once.
You should really be in like. I mean, Francesa does that, but Francesa, like at this point, like half of his show is just him making like stomach sounds, or like taking long pauses or counting for no reason. Like this, I'm assuming they're really talking.
They have skits. Yeah. They have like pre-recorded stuff. They like do pre-recorded stuff. Like it's a whole thing. Yeah.
So Francesca is like the old man at the YMCA of 5-hour radio shows. Like he has moves. He knows how to milk it a little bit. He knows how to, if he needs to kill 15 minutes, he can do it. These guys, I don't know.
Like you can see it coming that he's going to tell a Bill Parcells story, but you still can't defend it. You just have to like
stop it,
lay back and let it happen. So, all right. So he's on Rick and Bubba. He calls in let's say hour 4.
Yeah, hour 4. He's called in. He starts off with, I got so fired up when I rolled by the balloon. I rolled my windows down and I said something to them and they saw me. So he knows they saw him. So he figured the only way I was going to get close enough to that balloon to do something was to blend in. So I went and bought me an Alabama shirt and walked up just like I was walking to the game. And then when I got close enough to the balloon, bam, I stabbed it.
So he wasn't even a Tide fan? Like he wasn't even because that's what I'm imagining.
Just a man with a knife.
Like, because I'm imagining
they're trying to make a difference.
Do you remember that guy? Remember that guy who like was like a Bama fan and he went and like poisoned the trees outside of
at Auburn at Toomer's Corner.
Like I'm imagining it was like this guy, like he stabs it and like is just like Roll Tide. Like you know what I mean? Like I didn't. So,
well, that's the thing. I don't think he's an Alabama fan. I think he's just a Trump fan.
Yeah.
Because he's rolling by the game, no shirt, but with knife. So, yes. Okay. So, we're getting an idea.
That's solid.
Or at least the incorrect shirt. He doesn't have the right shirt on for the occasion. Yeah.
It's funny that I also thought that when he was like, well, he's buying himself a shirt. So I was like, well, so because he doesn't have a shirt on. Yeah, just like driving around shirtless with your blade, looking for like deep state agents or something like that. And then there's that balloon and you got to.
Yeah.
So he's taking a stand on behalf of the American way.
Yes. Trump. And he further explained. He further explained to host Rick Burgess. He's the Rick part of Rick and Bubba. That he acted because he is angered by people that won't take a stand. And here's what he said. He said, I feel like a lot of people my age don't keep up with the news and politics like they should. I watch the news every night, he says. I watch the news every night. I watch Fox News every night. Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity are my 2 favorite anchors. And I see this stuff. This is what he says.
Oh, I thought you were doing a bit.
I was going to say, I was like, this is too realistic to be funny. Like, you got to get weird. Like, make him watch Dobbs or something. All right, this is Good. All right. He sounds like a cool guy.
Okay.
Is he going to be joining us later in the show? I don't know. Is he going to come on here during hour 5?
We actually told him that you were coming. It's going to be like we kind of do like a Maury thing, like where we get like one guy buttered up, and then the other one comes in, and then we really get a conversation.
He walks in shirtless and pops me with a knife.
Yeah.
Great joining you.
David, I don't know if we told you this. We actually do a 6-hour show. I don't know if you were briefed.
No, it's good. I might need to get some more water at some point in like 3 hours. For now, I'm good.
You're in New York. You can just get one of those mail-in like IV things. Just have them hook it up to you while you're,
Yeah, that's what the pros do. That's how Fred does it. Diet Coke in a bag dripping down into his arm. So this guy's gonna like get on Fox now. Like he played his cards properly, and this is gonna.
Oh, wait till they get to the end. Right. Wait till they get to the end. He made a play, but he goes. And by the way, at this point, I will say when he said that about the favorite host, I did look up this story Onion to make sure it wasn't the Onion.
Yeah, no, it's sad. Gotta do it.
This is real. So he says, Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity, my 2 favorite anchors. I see all of this stuff going on out west and up north, not the south, not the southern border. These are going on out west and up north, and all these other places. I get so mad about people not taking a stand. The left wants to kind of use religion against you, like you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. But I'll tell you this: the devil knows the Bible as good as we do.
I mean, he's a lawyer.
Wow.
The devil is a lawyer, so he does know the law very well. He knows it inside and out.
I kind of like the way that ended. That was like some Flannery O'Connor shit there at the end. Because everything before that, it's just like Peepaw stuff, where it's like what they're doing out west, you wouldn't believe. Like they got.
It's like the fucking misfit.
People.
It's like the misfit stabbing the fucking baby.
I may be just a humble country Trump baby stabber, but I'll tell you.
What was his name again? His name was great.
It was a really good name. It was also a Flannery O'Connor-esque name. What was it? It was
what was the name?
It was Hoyt Hutchinson.
That's not
H.
real.
That's actually the name of the law firm representing him.
That cannot be real.
God. So, those guys are all so terrified and angry about California. That's like the most amazing thing about Fox is to see like how that touches people. Like people that have no business there, that have no thought about it, and like Mike Leach can't fucking sleep at night because he's thinking about like what Los Angeles is supposed to be like. Like he's so worried about it.
That's the most outrageous thing is I lived in the Central Valley of California, which is more conservative than like Indiana. Yeah. Like it's like literally the most conservative place I've ever been in my life. And like that's where these that's where these psychos are coming from. It's like
there's like these 2 different thoughts. The first thought is all these people go, I would never live in a place like LA. I hate the city. I don't want to live there. But they're also extremely mad about it like being like it's turned into shit. It's like people it's being overrun by migrants, but they also would never live there. They don't want to live there. They don't like it. But they also hate how it's going to shit.
I think that's like really central to like the Trump supporter vibe is people that live like far from Cincinnati, but they're willing to like go into Cincinnati to see him at a rally. But like that's what they talk about while they spend 2 hours waiting in line to get in, is being like, can you believe that we parked our car here in Cincinnati? Like this is it. This is maybe the riskiest thing I've ever done.
That's 100% exactly the conversation.
And I don't know how you get through to somebody like that too. Like it's true that like Los Angeles has like, this is the part of it that like I wrote about this, back when Mike Leach was talking about it, which was like 2 coaches ago complaining about California. I think that like some other dude, like Bill Self or somebody like put his oar in on that. But it's clear that like the way that they talk, like there is a real homelessness problem in Los Angeles and San Francisco as well, but it's like really bad and really sad. And yet like the way that they talk about it, it's like, they talk about it like it's like a litter problem. And it's like, it's so like ugly and like gnarly that way. Like it beyond the sort of like, it's not a concern for the city. It's like, we got to get these guys out of here. It's dirty. Like you can't even go in an entrance anymore. Because it's all abstract to them.
For sure.
And, so of course the people would be the most abstract part of all. Is this too much of a bummer? Do you want to talk more about the Trump baby man? We can do that.
I mean, I guess
that's totally true.
When you mention that, David, it's like I'm kind of like thinking about like Nate. Did you find any like liberal reactions to this? Because like the Trump baby for like a hot second was like the peak resistance like thing.
Yeah.
And like the fact that it got popped and like I didn't see anything about it on Twitter. Like I'm wondering where if the libs have just completely moved on. Because that guy was a total grifter. So. The Trump baby guy was a total grifter. And it's also
I hope it has.
And also I guess one other point too is like I want to make the point that like what's his name? The guy who toured with the Showbillies, the Glory Fears, what's his name? The country punk guy. You know what I'm talking about?
I don't know if I know. I don't know.
I'm gonna put it in the show notes because I want him to get some shine. But he was there at the game, and he was posting a lot of videos about like they were driving around in like a pickup truck, and like him and a buddy were like playing songs in the pickup. Like he had an amp, and like his buddy was playing drums, and like they were driving around, and it looked like it was like pretty wild. So it's kind of like wild that the Trump baby guy was like in the middle of all this. Like I didn't realize he's still grifting like that in the middle of like people actually doing cool shit. Like,
I have two good money shots for you at the end of this article. So let me just get this.
Okay. I thought we were at the end.
No. It actually escalates.
There's a whole other hour, man.
Oh my god.
Rick and Bubba experience, yeah.
So this first one is the last thing that he said or is quoted as saying is he goes, it comes a point when you got to take a stand. We don't have two parties anymore. We have good versus evil. He replied. And when you have one party that says this is maybe bad, but this is pretty good. When you maybe have one party that says it's okay to kill babies, and he goes, and by the way, it's the first time I've ever seen a liberal get mad about chopping up a baby. That was pretty good.
Wow.
That's pretty good. That's not a bad comeback if you're just rating it on comebacks wise.
He's like he just went on the radio and fucking cut a promo then. So this is all like contiguous speech. Good for him.
Yeah.
He's getting heat too.
And pop. Bubba was like going crazy.
Yeah, this is not cheap pop, not cheap heat.
Yeah.
Bubba was frothing at the mouth. We gotta have him back.
Ready to run through a fucking wall. So has this guy gotten to be on TV yet or what?
So here's the thing. Here's the last little money shot for you. So David, you talked about obviously this guy is going to get on Fox News. That hasn't happened yet, but here we go. Upon his release, Hoyt Hutchinson created a GoFundMe account titled "Restitutions for Baby Trump Stabber," and as of Monday afternoon, he had asked for $6,000 to pay for his legal fees. He has raised, want to guess?
Oh no, I don't. Don't say.
Is it more or less than Andy No?
It's gonna be more, I think.
More than I think it's less than Andy No. I think it's less than 80.
Less than 80, but
yeah.
All right, so what is it?
He's raised $40,000.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Grift.
That's incredible. What percentage of like GoFundMe actually is that too? Is people being like I was kind to a police officer and a teenager called me a nerd. I'd like $25,000, and then it's like half the time it seems like they get it. Which, credit where it's due.
On Veterans Day of all days.
Yeah.
Oh.
Remembrance Day.
Hour went out.
This is where memes will come in.
I was toying with my lamp.
Memes will come in where each like your $6 means subscription will go to each of us getting a private makeup artist, lighting, all sorts of wild stuff that you never realized you cared about.
Yeah, a producer's going to send Nate a note being like, "Don't turn your light off during the show."
Folks, I have an unreliable
The
life.
viewers hate that. Yeah, it's all right. I do too,
And
actually.
I just need $6,000 for a new life. That's
Perfectly
all
fair.
I
See,
need.
that's the thing is, I would probably stab the Trump baby as well, and just not ask for six. Like I didn't realize that's what I needed to be doing because I would love to have also been the guy who stabbed the Trump baby.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like I mean,
We were plotting Maurice's grift that he would do, like, and how easy it would be for you to just like get so much money.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is how much would I sell out for? How much would it take for me to go out for Trump? And look, if you asked me this in 5 years, that number is probably like $1 million. But right now, man, I don't know, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000.
God,
$40
Wouldn't
grand.
take that much.
Ask for more than you could spend in a month because like you're gonna want to, you'll feel bad afterwards. But I feel like if you're gonna be in for a year, I feel like this is like the last card left for everyone to play. That like if it all goes to zero for me, like I could write a book called like Left Behind, like how I realized that like my politics were all wrong and actually like Trump is my loving father. And I could probably get a book advance for that,
So,
you know, like
Trump is my
aim high, dude. Like that's my advice in that. Like,
so yes, like where do you think? Like I think this might be kind of a good segue into like what we're kind of planning on talking about. Like, what do you think will happen to the Trump grifters once Trump is gone? Like, what? I mean, you know, assuming he loses, like I don't want to assume these things any longer.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah.
I mean, assuming that this kind of like you know, very cheap. I mean, do you think this very cheap kind of like grifting will go away? Do you think like the next Trump will be savvier, or do you think he'll be even dumber? Because I mean, to be honest, like when I was a kid growing up in the Bush years, I never thought there was going to be anyone dumber than George Bush.
yeah.
You
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
Like I thought that like I mean, people forget like everyone was clowning on that guy like for being a dumb idiot.
Yeah. That is interesting
So
because
go ahead.
well, I just remember thinking, like looking back at his policies. I know that his policies are terrible. But I forgot that growing up, my mom would always trash that dude for just being a complete and utter public moron.
Yeah. And it was all the stuff that he got killed for justifiably. It was all like, he can't talk, can't put a sentence together, like he doesn't even know what his own policies are, all of which like Trump has got like to the 1,000th power, you know, that like Bush was like, he had like malaprops, like Trump like can't read, like only knows things that like come from his television and he only remembers them for like 10 minutes. And he gets like hung up on like little phrases, like easy stuff that he should be able to do. I think that like for the time being, as long as this type of, not just like the politics of reaction, but this like style of it, of like constantly like acting like you're in like a pro wrestling sort of scenario where you're like constantly being like surprised and shocked and like demanding apologies and talking about how wounded you are, all that like over the top stuff, like until there's no more money in that, I think that's where the future of this is. It's just going to be some obnoxious like college Republican type doing it, and I don't think it'll hit as hard because like if like Josh Hawley does the same shit, right? But like you instantly look at a guy like that and you're like, I don't like this person. Like this is just like not my type of dude. It's some like Niedermeyer from Animal House type person. and that is like a whole different type of guy. Like Trump's whole thing is that he is a clown, and I think that like part of what his supporters like about him is that he fucking sucks, that he gets stuff wrong constantly, you know, that's like part of the show for them. Whereas like these guys, once they're like professionalized.
But really though, because like I mean, it's like think about like the Epstein thing. Like the Epstein thing, like Trump supporters are really latching onto.
Yes, think of it. Think of Epstein.
But
I'm doing it, man.
But they just openly disregard. Like people, like their mentions when they say it are just like full of like pictures of like Trump with Epstein. Like so, there's just like so much like active like cognitive dissonance. Like even more than the Bush thing. Like where the Bush thing would be like, you know, like West Wing type shit. Like, like pointing.
Well, the idea was that you win an argument with him, and then you've done. I think with Trump, this is like, I guess this is more specifically what I meant, because I think you're right about that. It's that like so for him, like it's a TV show, right? Like everything is a TV show. Yes. He's the main character in the TV show. He's got his enemies, and every week he's like, you know, defeating them and like emerging victorious, and then there's like a freeze frame on a high five at the end of it with like I don't like Rebecca Romaine or something, like just some like 90s celebrity that he wants to be thought of with. And I think that like for them, like certainly the Epstein shit, like, yeah, of course there's like an element of cognitive dissonance there. Like he's a rapist. You know what I mean? Like the idea of him as like a good person is like on its face is ridiculous. But if you've decided to tell a different sort of story where none of the stuff that's actually true about him matters, and what really matters is like the mystery that you're unlocking with the rest of the like 61-year-olds in your Q chat group on Facebook or whatever, that like all that at that point you're playing a different game and you can go wherever you want. You can so like the more overstated he is, the more like interesting the show is, even though at that point you're like completely outside of anything that we would think of as being like discourse or politics. Like you're just in a realm of pure imagination.
Oh yeah.
Like that's part of like what's sad to me about all the that like extreme of like older people getting into Q stuff is like I don't think they are going to come back from that. Like once you've decided that's what you want, it's not like somebody else gets elected and you go back to like caring about the deficit. Like it's just all fucking lizards and baby eating until the day you die.
That may be true, but also just from personal experience, cut them off from the internet. If we could have a national program of doing it. So I mean, this is true. So for the last few years of her life, my grandma had two separate kind of phases. One was she had a cable package that had Fox News. And for those several years, I would come over and she would say things like Obama is a Muslim, secret Muslim, and all the conspiracy theory, all the birther conspiracy theory. She was deep into it. And then we changed her cable package. I mean, this is a byproduct. We didn't do it just for this. It happened to change. She lost Fox News, and she chilled the fuck out. She was not, within 6 months, she was like, I disagree with Obama, but like he seems like a nice man who loves his family. Yeah. Like you'd be surprised how elastic the brain is if we just cut these boomers off from reading.
That's really heartening. I like the idea of like you got it and it's like it's Fox Sports 1 instead of Fox News. So now she's like all on the like Whitlock Hotep thought leader tip, but it's like completely she's like mad about LeBron, but not like mad about like Obama. She's just like
really into Formula One racing, like all of a sudden.
Like my Meemaw's been listening to too much Colin Cowherd. This is really bad.
Hey, I've been listening to a lot of Colin Cowherd lately, and I have too. I will tell you, it's been warping my brain. I will like for this thing with Brian. I have been listening to all of these guys, and I think my brain is actively being damaged by it. We'll see what happens.
What would you say? I don't want to give away the stuff that's going to be in the show, but how has a prolonged Cowherd experience touched you guys? How has it changed you?
like I obviously don't agree with anything he says, but I can imagine.
You sure?
I actually refer to all black athletes as children that want to eat cake for breakfast now. That's what I do.
Did you say that for real?
Dude, every time he talks about the NBA, he compares Adam Silver to being a parent that feeds their children cake for breakfast. Every single time. And
that's fun.
I mean, it is really interesting. That is kind of an interesting thing to make is that like Fox, like it is wild that I know for certain that Cowherd got kicked off of CBS because he said some incredibly racist shit about Dominicans, and Skip also. I don't know if he said it when he's on ESPN, but he has said he's written incredibly racist things when he was at the Dallas newspaper he was at. Like,
but he
wrote
TO bit.
Yeah, I mean, the stuff that he wrote about like college football and the Cowboys in the '80s, like literally sounds like Rudyard Kipling. Like, I mean, it is like insanely racist shit. Like, so like it is wild that like that Fox Sports like also does bring in those guys, and so I mean, it is just part of their brand, to do that. But yeah, no, I mean,
that's interesting.
It is just like warping my brain to like just I feel this. I can feel it like trying to take hold, and I'm just angry all the time as I resist it.
Listen to Cowherd for me. I maybe it's maybe because I've been listening to him like just kind of off and on for like the last year or two, just sort of like random segments.
Yeah,
and Yeah, just a little dabble, you know, just get my hands wet a little bit.
Experimenting, something wrong with that.
And
being young.
Exactly, yeah. But he seems like the kind of dude who, like, is like I don't really get explicit racist vibes from him. Like I know he is, but from his words, he seems like someone who would like really cater to white folks who are like very anti-black, but they like to at least like express it in ways that is very paternalistic, very ostensibly. What is ostensibly like caring for these individuals, you know?
Yeah, I think that's like the skip bit too. I think that's right because it's like they perceive that as just being like normal, like that's the default to them. And so it's the sort of thing like it wouldn't ring any bells if you were just like, oh yeah, well, you know, these guys, like they all want to, like all they want to do is like fucking party and like stay up all night. You know how that is. Like, and it's not the sort of thing where like they don't hear themselves saying it. And so like if Cowherd says it, they're like, well, all right, yeah, like that's reasonable. Like, let's hear him out on this cake metaphor thing and like see where that goes.
Yeah, I think it's incredibly difficult if you're an older white guy sports commentator whose whole shtick is hot takes, like to not be racist. I mean, even if you're not racist,
diving in.
Your takes have to be racist.
We had a hard time when we were like, we need to switch to more of a hot take format because like we're live, like people are gonna want like to engage with the show when we do it. And I was like, but like to make up a hot take, you usually have to say something incredibly stupid. Like, the easiest way to say something incredibly stupid is just be racist. Like, you know.
Well, it's hard because like once you start, when it's your job, there's a whole different part of your brain that, as a normal person, or even as just like a web damaged, you know, semi-normal person, that you wouldn't access. When I was freelancing real hard before I started getting staff jobs, and it was like I would get paid on a story by story basis, and if I wasn't getting pitches taken, I wouldn't, you know, have the $200 or $300 I was going to get for that piece, which I really needed for my fucking rent. And so I would pitch stuff. I pitched a story once to my guy at New York Magazine, and I'm really glad he didn't take it because I would have written it, which was basically like Stephon Marbury's "What's Right About the Knicks" or like just some shit. I didn't even believe it, but I was just like, I could write about Stephon Marbury for 800 words if I like can keep my gas bill paid. Like, sure, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And I remember him emailing me back and being like, "You really think this?" And I was like, "Well, that's a funny question, actually." And so thankfully I got out of it. But like, yeah, if that was like, especially if you're on the fucking radio or on television for hours on end, and like you can feel the energy flagging, and at some point you're just like Russell Westbrook's the best player in the NBA. Don't at me. Like, and then you just have to like follow that shit all the way through to its end.
But I do want to make it clear though, like Southpaws is not saying that it's okay to be racist for pay.
Okay. You have been kind of saying that you would be racist for like very little amounts of money.
I don't recall saying that actually.
We can rewind the tape here.
It's completely different. It's a completely different story.
Sound off in the chat. Did Maurice say he would be racist for pay? Anyway, well,
polls are open. Poll.
That kind of gets us to like kind of where we were talking about going next. We were going to talk about how David lost the thing that he built that was incredible, and does that make you sad?
Let's jump in. No. You know, it did it first, and now I'm like, cool. I don't have anything.
No, that's great. You can do things like come on like our third-rate podcast, and
it's great. I finally have the time to go on every podcast, which is terrific.
That is kind of the impression I got when I like texted you, and you were like, "Yeah, I'll go on your podcast." I'm like, Roth sounds like he just is like, I don't have anything to do for the next month.
No, I mean, like, I like the idea of this, and I feel like also like. I mean, I've been trying to write less. Like, I'm trying to focus on, you know, I'm doing some freelance stuff and writing that Stephon Marbury story finally, which is great.
We've noticed like you've done a big foray into video lately. Like, I've kind of been like force fed it.
That's cool. I've loved that part.
So
that was my favorite part.
That you're saying that that's what you're trying to get into. So you're like,
well, I'm trying to do podcast stuff because I'm trying to.
Want to.
I feel like this is like where podcast shit is like where it's easier. I like doing it. I should try to get less bad at it. And so like, you know, I practice. I mean, I don't say yes to everything. Like, I support what you all are doing and like, I'm happy to be on it. But like, yeah, if you'd asked me to write 1,200 words for you for no reason or for free, I probably would have said no. But like, yeah, I can talk to you about the Trump baby man for an hour. So it's my pleasure.
Well, to be fair, like, I was trying to like wait. I was like, I'm gonna ask Roth for like a fun topic, and then like your entire life like collapsed. I was like, I should ask him about that.
Well, I should say that like honestly, like I would have felt like the times I've been laid off, just twice, I felt worse than this. And you know, I had severance there. Like obviously, it's different. Like I have a little bit of money saved, but you know, this will start getting difficult sooner than later. But it was so bad by the end that the idea of just continuing to stay and like eat shit for another couple of months until it was finally time for them to, you know, strike again. Like this is better. Like I wake up every day feeling better, and you know, I wake up every day feeling fucking sad and anxious too. But like that's kind of normal for me. So it's like it's not ideal.
But you got to like at least do a courageous thing as opposed to just get fired.
Yeah, and I'm still like, with all my friends, you know, like I feel like there's a chance for us to do some new thing, and like obviously it's not any easier to like start a website back up, but like everyone from Deadspin wants to start another version of Deadspin, you know, so we're trying to figure out how to do that right. You know, I don't know how many bites at that Apple will get, so we're talking to people, and you know, ideally like we'd own it, you know, that seems really hard. None of us are independently wealthy, and that's kind of like, and even if we were, you'd need to be like third starter on a Major League Baseball team on his second contract wealthy to just be like, all right, sure, let's do it. But like we're looking, I think we've got a thing that people like, you know, and you know, it's not going to be worse than it was. Like, but it's cool. Like it's really the thing that's been strangest about it I mean, it's just been like a week and a few days, which is crazy. This like time dilation thing that happens in like just that's every day in 2019 now. It's like if something happened in July or it happened in 2015, like I really don't know the difference to that anymore. But in this case, it's like we're all so fucking brain damaged by our work at Deadspin that like there's a Slack channel, everyone's in it. I log on every morning just like I did when I had a job. It's just like there's never any blogs to edit. But everybody's like sharing the same shit. And the whole world has felt like a fucking taunt since we left. Like Francesca farted on the radio. Trump grabbed Kurt Suzuki's tits. Like all these like stupid things happened. And I was like, I needed to, like Todd Frazier's been on one recently about the wild turkeys in his part of South Jersey. He's waging like a multi-platform media campaign for like Turkey Answers Now. Like, these are all blogs that I want to write. Then I can't pitch that shit. Like I can't like email someone and be like, hey, do you want like 800 words on Todd Frazier getting upset about turkeys? What website does that go at? You know, so like, that's a big part of why we want to start it back up. But
I will say though, I do understand the Todd Frazier wild turkey thing because my mom just moved into a new neighborhood and they have wild turkeys there.
And apparently they're very disruptive.
It's a hassle. It's a hassle.
What do they just eat everything?
I just know that my little sister is terrified of them. She sees them like frequently.
They also, being from rural Illinois, they also stand in the middle of the road, and they're like they just don't move. They just don't move.
Bad.
They're bold. They're bold animals.
Yeah, we were seeing my wife's aunts in like sort of upper like Catskilly, New York, and they have like it's like cool to us because we live in a city. Like we'll see it. Oh wow, and they're like, no, those things are like huge cockroaches that constantly wreck your car and eat all your shit. Like they're not cute to you if you live out there. And I'm assuming like my parents saw like one turkey, they'd like take a bad cell phone picture of it and then like send it to an old email address of mine. Like they'd be pumped. But like I guess if you see like 10 turkeys, then it gets like freakier and more Hitchcockian.
Yeah, so okay, so you kind of like said this is like obviously to fucking run something like Deadspin or even, you know, like anything. Like cuz like honestly, like I don't even know how like something like Bleacher Report still puts out like what they put out because they're like ostensibly look much larger than the operation you guys were running. Unless you count like the whole Gawker Media thing.
I mean, they still are though. All those sites, we had a way smaller staff than pretty much every one of the places that were like our peers in terms of traffic.
So, but, you know. So kind of like I'm thinking like that's kind of like what we were saying is like kind of like what we want to talk about is like, you know, I know you've mentioned you know, like some sort of subscription thing, or like a Patreon or whatever. Like, I mean, like, how do you see media being able to survive? Kind of, I think, like, not as people are realizing, but like people like actively want to be freed of like capital interests like inside of media, because like obviously there's conflict of interest, and like obviously media is gonna just try to push you, like I said last week, into something like The Ringer, where you just like write fucking SpawnCon for like the next HBO show, you know?
Yeah.
So
No,
like,
it's tough.
what do you kind of think like are options? Because like I personally don't think that subscriptions are going to be able to sustain, you know, the whole industry, but
well, they wouldn't be able to sustain. I think with some of this, it's like subscriptions are good from where we stand as sort of like a proof of concept thing, you know, that like if we could say X number of people are willing to pay for this, that's something that, you know, for one thing, it shows that what we do has some value, but then also like if we do need to go the rich person route, or, you know, then it shows too that like this is committed. You know, we're in a unique position because we have, you know, these tens of millions of monthly unique views, which is, if you're starting something new, you can't be like, we're going to do, you know, whatever X number of views a month, because you don't know, and people don't know to look there. And so we have that sort of going for us. But I think in general, where your question is most interesting and most disturbing to me is the idea that you know, I want people to start new sites, right? That like this was a thing that, you know, I did it years ago with the classical, with some other people. At that time, you know, I made the first real, like, not the real money, but the first real like inroads in my career were writing for Gerard Cosloy's blog, which was like a lark that he did when he wasn't fucking running Matador Records, and then writing for the All, which I, you know, barely got paid for, but which was like basically, you know, I think of as like the best of that vintage of websites, where it was just kind of like, you know, people would go to the homepage and just read down it, and it would be different types of stories about different types of things. Some of them are little stupid blogs, some of them are reported features, which was like kind of what Deadspin had. I miss sites like that, and those sites people did look at them and they read them a lot. It's just it was harder, I think, to explain to advertisers what they were worth. And also at the time, people weren't really paying subscriptions for anything that wasn't like the Wall Street Journal or the Financial Times or whatever. And so there's this sense with all those, you know, now that most of those sites are gone, that they're gone because they weren't valuable. And I don't think that that's right. I think that sites like that could turn a modest profit. That Deadspin turned a modest profit. Gawker, as a broader, you know, cross-section of sites, always turned a profit until, you know, they got sued out of existence.
So
and then
that
wound
motherfucker Bubba the Love Sponge.
Yeah. and then the worst part too, the equity hell that we were in right before we left was bad. Univision at this point is like, they're in the middle of one of those like Soprano style bust outs. There's like 5 or 6 different equity like concerns that own that now. And they were trying to do, that was basically them trying to like pump it up, hire a bunch of people, show this growth, and then sell it to somebody else for more than it was worth. And that's what the whole move at Vice was at. A lot of places are trying to do that. They never wanted to own it, but like somebody might want to own it, and they might be inclined to own it more if they knew that it could make money, which it can. Like, you're not going to make money the way that venture capital guys want to make it. You're not going to go 10 times your investment or 100 times, but like, you could make a few $1 million a year, and like, that's not anything to sneeze at. It's just a question of like, with all of this stuff, and this is where like the private equity shit is really sinister, is that like, they are about extracting the maximum of profit from a thing and then either bankrupting it or selling it, presumably after all the value is gone, to some other person. There's nothing there that's about sustaining any of the stuff that they buy, or like that recognizes any of the value in it. And that, so you have to find somebody that recognizes that value. And at this point, like, that's the challenge with any of this stuff, is finding like, it's easy. It might be easier for Deadspin. I don't know how easy it'll be, but it's because of the fact that we have all these readers that do value it. But if you're starting some new thing up, like, I think until you can show that, people are going to be less likely to take a chance on it, unless, like you said, it's the sort of thing that could be made a part of like some bigger gambit like The Ringer, where, you know, I guess the idea there is that like all the HBO SpawnCon stuff keeps the lights on for the good basketball writing.
Right.
And I'm sympathetic to that because the basketball writing is really good and because it's really hard out here. But it's also like that's not the way that anybody would draw it up if they had to choose. I don't think.
Bill Simmons might actually, but
yeah, right, yeah.
I can say personally that that I think that I hope it works out, and I hope that you guys do. I was from day one. I was hoping that you would start a new site because I honestly, I'll admit something right now. Just pure reflex memory. I have been going to Deadspin.com.
I've been doing it, man, and I know it's.
I know. I type it in. I'm at work. I'm brain dead. I type it in. I hit it. I go to the front page, and I look at it, and I go, "Oh fuck!" And then I have to click out of it. Like so, I'm in it. Like my brain needs it. My brain wants it.
Yeah, and that's the part of it. There aren't that many sites that still have that anymore either. Where it's like where people just go there and they're like, "Well, let's see what's good." Like people find articles through social stuff now and all that. But like, there's something, the idea of it being like beyond like, trusted, or like people will go there and they'll just like fucking hang out on the page until they find something they want to read. Like that's all stuff that's supposed to have value in advertising, as I understand it. It's just like, somebody has to care for any of that to mean anything. And that's been like the part that when I get dark on it, that's the part I get dark about. Yeah. It's like, what if it doesn't matter to anybody? But
I also went to Boston this last weekend for a friend's birthday. Thank you. It's a wonderful city. And my girlfriend would not allow me to go to Back Bay because I looked up the address of Great Hill Partners and I was going to yell at them. I was going to throw eggs at the building. And she's like, we cannot go there. I will not let you go there.
Yeah.
So,
I don't feel good content, but
yeah. I don't feel badly for them. I appreciate the thought and also appreciate not getting arrested for your birthday. But like, I don't think that they didn't think that this was going to happen. This was just some other stupid fucking purchase to them. I don't think that they thought that these websites like had people that cared about them. That it was just like a series of numbers.
In a way, like when I heard you talking about it on Chapo, like it did kind of it kind of was like that whole like, well, we live in like the post Reddit world. Like I've never gone like just go to a website anymore. And then when you were talking about like, oh, well, people would just like, go fucking type the address into the address bar. And they would go there and be like, that is true. Like, it was the only thing I did. It was like Twitter, Facebook, maybe Reddit, like Hacker News, because I'm a programming nerd, and and Deadspin. And it was just like, yeah, I mean, that is, like you said, it is very strange to like, especially. Yeah.
And that used to be more of the internet. I think it was better for readers when there was more of that too, because it was like it was cool as a writer or as an editor also, because it meant that people like sort of trusted you to give them something interesting to read. Whereas now it's like the people that you trust are the people that are putting a link on Twitter and you're like, oh, well, this person's usually right.
And who the fuck knows who those people are? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's like we've entered like this ultra level of SpawnCon where you don't even know who's telling you what the thing is anymore, or
where there's like these relationship levels of it too, or stuff like that, like stories that go like, all these people like instantly being like, this is extraordinary, you must read this and all that. And I'm like, at some point, like when you see that like 10 times, then I just assume the piece is bad, which is probably wrong. But I'm just like, oh, these guys are all buddies and like whatever. This dude wrote this 2,500 word feature on X, Y, or Z. Like,
hey, you're in a podcast full of haters. We're all haters here.
That's true.
This is good.
I feel so seen. I appreciate that.
That's true. As long as you can just give us that media scoop, like, there's all these media assholes. I hate when they talk about their media stuff. Yeah, that's what we're about. No.
Ugh. You guys know Drew McGarry? Awful.
The worst.
Wow.
He is the worst.
I know. I was so happy to see that book back there.
Well, we have
buy the book, folks. Buy the book.
Nathan and I have to defend Deadspin because we both went to the University of Illinois, and if people start hating Deadspin, like that devalues our degrees that we have. Yeah. So
your degrees from the Will Leach School of Blogging.
Did you blog like semi-formal dress? Illinois, Nate? I blogged a little bit, but not about Illinois.
Did I blog?
Yeah. Actually, I did. I blogged about the Illinois baseball team, which was really hard to blog about because they're.
I started one.
Shit. Yeah.
I started a blog, and I posted about 2 times. I remember posting a post about how Dimitri McCamey slimmed down in 2011, and he was really going to be great this year.
Yeah. I was going to say, you guys are all young enough that you weren't there when the basketball team was any good, right? Like, did they make an announcement while you were there?
I was actually technically young enough to... to almost have gone to college for that, but I went to college when I was like almost 30. So like
Okay.
But yeah, like I actually catered what's his name? James Augustine's sister's wedding. And James Augustine came up to me and he goes, "Hey man, I'm James." I'm like, "James, I'm from Champaign, dude." Like
Yeah. Like which of the tall Jameses that I would instantly recognize would you be?
Like
yeah, I wrote a bunch of
I know you.
I don't know if we're transitioning immediately into the remembering some guy stuff. But I wrote a bunch of rookie cards for that guy when I was at Topps. That was like one of the drafts where so he was a second round pick of like the Magic or something.
Magic, yeah.
And the way that they would do it at Topps, they'd have like 50 or 60 guys that could get drafted, and they would just get assigned out. And so like you'd write these cards, and then like if the guy got drafted, the card got printed. If not, then you just wrote like you wrote like 10 cards for Rashad Anderson from Connecticut, and then he just like doesn't get picked. Nothing happens. Those cards just like you still get paid like your $2 for them, but they just disappear. Really
Do you know what happened to James Augustine post NBA? It's a good story.
No, is he well?
He's very well.
Yes, he is. He went to Spain. I think he won some championships in, I think, Israel and also maybe the Euro League. And he found himself a very hot Spanish wife.
Incredibly
That's
hot.
the dream.
I met her.
I always thought
she's
the Euro
incredibly
basketball
hot.
lifestyle seems so good.
Oh, dude, I don't understand why if you were like a second-tier guy, you wouldn't just go to Europe or China and live like a fucking god. Like Stefan
did.
Yeah, Josh Childress did that in Greece. And he was very open about it, where he was just like, they're paying for my house, man.
I mean,
like, have you seen how nice it is here? Like,
Amari Stoudemire, like, joined the IDF. He, like, was like such a king.
That's the dream. Yeah. Put it like that. Why doesn't everyone?
I know, yeah. Yeah, so I guess before we start remembering too many guys here, one last thing I kind of want to talk about on this story is the implications of you guys were also one of the more visible journalism unions that had formed. A lot of what was happening with Great Hill, right? Great Hill is what they're called?
Yes, Great Hill Partners, and then the CEO is Jim Spanfeller.
Yeah.
It's the bigger issue, but
so like with them is that they violated your CBA.
Yeah.
And so like where do you think like this will mean for like kind of like I mean, is there a fight there? Like, where's the union part going? Because that was clearly very inspiring to like a lot of people writing, because a lot of people unionized after you guys unionized.
So that is ongoing. And part of why we resigned the way that we resigned was that we didn't want to screw things up for the rest of the union. I mean, like we had talked, if we had struck instead of resigning, it would have voided the collective bargaining agreement, and who knows what they would have done then.
Oh, wow.
I mean, there's rules, like, and the stuff that they didn't adhere to is, there's a process for dealing with that. But like there's 150 people that still work there that I care about a lot, and they're still in that unit. And, I don't want to say anything to like screw up what they're trying to do. I don't think I could or would, because I don't really know it well enough at this point, but there's still a great deal of power, as the cliche goes, in the union. And it's like, if they're gonna make it, like, that's how they're gonna make it. I mean, that they know what they need to do, and they know how to escalate towards the goals that they need. It's just, it's tough because like, and I said this on Chapo, I feel like this is the thing that I keep coming back to with it, is that like, I was part of organizing at Vice when I was there, and we started that union, and it was, a difficult and sort of frustrating process in a lot of ways. And it obviously didn't stop me from getting laid off, although it did get me a severance. The thing with that was sort of heartening, though, once it got going, was that there's a process for all of this, that like, there's no easy or amiable contract negotiations, but in the time in between, there's, a lever that you push and management responds in a certain way, and they have one too. And there's a relationship that makes sense because presumably everybody's working towards the same end, right? That like, they want money, you want them to give you as much of it as the contract entitles you to. And from there, you can figure out a way to make it work. It's not going to be easy or fun necessarily, but like, everybody's motivations sort of work in a dynamic tension and it holds it in place. In this case, the fact that Deadspin made money for the sites, the fact that, they needed our traffic in order to hit the goals that they had set in terms of advertising revenue and all that shit, it didn't matter to the CEO. And that's a hard one, because ordinarily it's the sort of thing where like you can get with the rest of the union and you can be like, well, here's where our leverage is. Mm-hmm. And this is what we do to make it clear, what we want. And then you count on them to respond in kind, to look at it and be like, all right, well, this is either going to work or it's not. And in this case, it's like getting rid of Splinter, the situation with us, that all feels personal. And it's not, there's not a business justification for it that I could see.
Right. Yeah.
And at that point, it's hard to know where you stand, because it's the whims of one guy who's rich enough that he feels like he's bulletproof. And then this equity company that's got literally billions of dollars under management, so they don't give a shit. This is a rounding error for them. And they expect to lose on, 9 out of 10. Mm-hmm. So at that point, it's hard, because like it matters a great deal to us. But in order for that relationship to work the way it's supposed to work, it also has to matter to our counterparty. And if it doesn't, then the work gets that much harder, Yeah. I wish I had an answer for how to deal with that, but I think they're figuring it out now, but it's tough.
No, it is like that. That's 100%. Like it was very, like it was like terrifying, honestly, to watch that happen. It's someone, so like I mentioned, like I'm a software engineer, and obviously that's not a very, very well organized field. And like I would be interested in organizing it, but then to just watch, because like obviously my field is also dominated by like the same kind of private equity that yours is, and it's like to watch them just be like, yeah, fuck your union, like yeah, we don't mind, like whatever, we'll swallow the cost of like crushing all of you guys. Like that is, I mean, that is terrifying. Like it is terrifying to watch.
And that's on principle to them. That's not a business decision. That's like with all of it, it's like that way. It's like the fundamental thing about like rich person fuckery that way is that they'd spend $10 million to learn how to evade $8 million worth of taxes. Like it's just how their minds are. And that's, you can't say that it's not a principle that I personally share, but that is a stand on principle. And at that point, like it's hard to make a rational argument with somebody like that, because that's not a rational decision. That's a moral stance. Just happens to be like a moral stance that's dedicated to like fucking over as many people as possible and keeping as much bullshit as you can.
It reminds me of the GE strike that happened recently. Like GE has been having record profits, and all the coverage that I saw of the GE strike.
You mean GM, right?
GM. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, right. Okay.
GE might be going bankrupt soon. Yeah, GM.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, GE's got a whole other suite of problems.
Oh yeah.
And run
the GM has had more profits than it's had in the last like decade or two, and all the coverage that I saw on like CNBC was stuff like, but how will this affect the product that they're making? Will it degrade the they have a competitive advantage or whatever with like labor costs? Will it eat into that? And I was just thinking back to, it doesn't, for a lot of the people, for a lot of the owners of capital, it doesn't really matter all that much.
Yeah.
Like Deadspin was an extremely good product. It was a product that people, not only it was an extremely good product, but people actually consumed the product quite a bit.
Like, I've worked at plenty of like sites that were good, but didn't like turn a profit. And sooner or later, how that goes. In this case, it was like, you didn't really need to do anything. Like, just fucking relax and let us make you money, man. Like, why does this have to be an issue? And yet, like, that's how it was. So,
yeah.
I don't know. Now we get to see if maybe we can find a better class of rich person or just do it ourselves. But I don't know.
How do you feel about the Athletic? Because I've honestly been confused about this, because Adam says often.
Yeah, it's kind of a good place. I think,
Adam says a lot of the time, and I kind of get that the subscription model isn't going to work. And what do you think about so the Athletic going? I think they're 100% subscription right now.
Yeah. Every now and then they'll unlock a thing for free, but I mean, it could be. It's a question of how they choose to do it. I think that there's definitely clearly something there that people are willing to pay for, and I think that they have used that money, as I understand it, to raise more rounds of venture capital. And in this case, it's not a completely irrational thing. It's not like when like venture people are like, WeWork is worth $10 billion. WeWork is more valuable than IBM.
Yeah.
Like, and that's just like some shit that they pulled out of the air. Like, it's clear that people want to read The Athletic, right? But the way that they've been raising this money and then spending it and losing that money, I mean, that's like it's the growth, that like relentlessness that seems like part of the sales pitch there. And I feel like what I worry about with that is that like the thing that they have that's worth money and that is valuable and that people are willing to pay for is real. And if they fucking over leverage it because they're playing some rich guy game about like trying to show growth and trying to like pump up the value to sell it to somebody for more than it's worth, like all the usual like sort of business boy bullshit. Yeah. If they do that and then they wreck this thing that people actually like and have shown that they're willing to pay for, then that will be a fucking terrible waste to me. Yeah. Not just because I have like friends that write there, but like it's not easy to make something that people want, you know, like The Athletic haven't taken that many crazy chances, but like they identified a weakness in the market because newspapers have suffered so much that like local sports coverage done well and in a like, you know, sort of decidedly down the middle way, like, yeah, people are into that. Yeah. They were right in betting that people would be into that. Like, I just hope they don't fuck it up playing games, you know, like that's the anxiety that I have with it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it does suck that you just really can't make anything that people enjoy because even if you are good at it, they'll tell you to fuck off, and it's not the new Marvel movie. Or
well, that's
a website
I think the Marvel
about
thing
Marvel
makes
movie.
sense as a comp too, because it's like you could make a movie and you could make a 10% profit on it. That's a success. Right. But if you can make a movie and you make $1 trillion because it's fucking Infinity War, then like if it's fine, both are fine. You know, like I know, but like if it's all one, if it's only moonshots, and it's the sort of thing where like the idea of creating these sites and having them be sustainable and keeping that value, like then like if that doesn't work for you, then like you know, where do you go from there? What do you do? But I don't know.
The optimism, I think, but the you know, the optimism that I see is that everyone knows that this sucks, and I think everybody knows it sucks. And the question is, we have to come up with business models that will work, that are more fair and equitable to the people actually creating the content.
Well,
and then make it possible for there to be more things. I think so. It's a good question. My inclination is that, and this is, you know, optimism, wish casting, whatever. Like, I think that people sense that things aren't working right, and I think 100%. that like it's a question of where we go from there, right? Because like you can, as in our politics, that like it's clear that we're not getting dignified lives, you know, just for or whatever you want to say, that like that basically like a lot of stuff isn't working, and then you know that can go one of two ways. Like that could go purely fash, and you just like punish immigrants because that makes you feel powerful. Or you find some structures and you break the ones that aren't working and you change the ones that are so that it works for more people. In this case, like I'm not the guy that is going to come up with like a new business model for any of this stuff. Like I can honestly, like it's all I can do to get online before 10 in the morning every day. Like I'm not a high functioning individual. Like I have my charms or whatever, but that's it. But I think that this is like, it's clear that there's a need here, and I think that there's got to be some people that are willing to either make money or even lose money to make there be more good shit. The idea of there just being like 10 websites on the internet and like 8 of them are fucking teeming with Nazis for some reason, like that's not, and no one wants that shit like at all, I don't think. So it's a question of how you get from here to wherever it is we're going. But I think that at the very least, not nobody, but it's not the same thing with movies where people are like, no, I only want Marvel movies and you're a snob if you want anything but that. Like, I think people don't just want to, like, I want to read The Athletic too, but it's not the only sports website I want to read, you know? Like, it doesn't replace everything. It replaces, like, you know, whatever, like a failing local paper's coverage.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
We want to remember some guys.
Yeah, all right, sure, let's do it.
Let's do
I
something.
didn't want to be the one to ask, but
Let's do something more enjoyable than realize that like nothing will ever get better.
No. One last thing. We shouldn't end with nothing will ever get better. We should end with the fact that everyone knows everything is shitty. It's just we have to figure out the way to make it work.
I just hope that maybe our collective capital can equal like our collective bargaining.
Yeah.
It's like what I just am worried about is that like projects like Means that we're working with, projects like David and other people at Deadspin have talked about like it just isn't viable for like every single person like ourselves to just have $200 worth of subscriptions to support everybody. So I hope that something can happen. Like we can find a cash daddy or something, is just what I'm worried about,
I think that more people are on the case now. Like, it's not the sort of thing where I think everybody's trying to just 1% out for themselves or whatever. Mm-hmm. So, I trust enough, whatever, monkeys banging away on enough typewriters and like maybe something happens, like maybe somebody fucking, not the equivalent of writing Shakespeare, but maybe they write like the, I don't know, like a jamboree.
Yeah.
I think that would be fine.
So Adam, everything is not shit. Most things are shit, but we can make them better. How about that?
We still do
That's
this. This is like one of the only things that makes me not feel like shit. And Maurice said the same thing, that he's been having a horrible weekend, and he just was hoping to have a nice 2 hours. So we'll just do it just because it makes us not want to kill ourselves for 2 hours. I mean, it'd be nice, if we could maybe not take so much.
We can definitely talk about something that will make you think less about dying than what we've been talking about. Any other topic we'll do.
Yes. Okay. Let's do some remembering some guys. First, Roth, we didn't even give you the chance to gloat. You had a victory today.
Did I? Wait, when? I was offline for some of the day. What did I do?
As a Mets fan, you had a minor.
Oh, yeah.
You don't get many, but you
had
one today.
You might get the Cy Young Award winner, too, which is great. That definitely makes up for the fact that we will never have a good team 2 years in a row. While the people in charge.
It's like the anti Bill Simmons team. Like no one working together, but individual awards out the wazoo.
Yeah, the classic baseball thing that you want.
Yes.
Alonso's cool as hell, and he's a blessing. I have no complaints about that. Like, he's the coolest Met in forever.
Yeah.
And he won handily, right? Like, it was.
Yes.
It
wasn't unanimous like the other. What's the other guy? The guy from the Astros.
Soroka.
Yeah.
Oh, no. From the Astros.
Yeah, the DH. I can't. See, that's the thing. I watch no baseball. Yonder Alonso? No.
Yordan Alvarez?
Yes.
Yordan Alvarez. There you go. I knew there was a Y there somewhere.
Yeah, wait, Yordan Alvarez was the AL Rookie of the Year?
Unanimous. Yeah.
I'm shocked about that, though.
Yeah, that doesn't feel right to me.
Because he only played half a season.
Yeah, I mean, he was very good, but maybe whatever.
There were some
very
good players. I honestly didn't watch baseball really much at all this year because I was so mad about the Lakers stuff.
But David, I gotta ask you, how do you feel about Soroka in the NL?
He's really good.
He
was the other guy that got votes, you said?
Yeah, he got like one.
Everybody knew if Pete Alonso was gonna win it,
But I just felt like I felt like there should have been more of a race there. Like, I know like people were like
he
really
was awfully good and
I mean, and I think it's like I know WAR is not everything, but some WAR projections had him with a higher WAR.
I saw that.
And I mean, he also like dominated in a league in a time where like it was like one of the best offensive years ever.
Yeah, and he wasn't like he's a really fun pitcher to watch. Like even when he's like carving up the Mets, because he's not like a big strikeout guy. He's like he's real interesting. I think he probably could or should have gotten more votes. He faded badly, but I like watching Paddock too for the Padres. Like there's pitchers that succeed in this moment. Like I think Alonso is legit, but you're definitely right that it's the sort of thing where like in this year, like hitting 50 odd homers, like it's a crazy thing to do under any circumstances and really impressive. But like, here in particular, it's the one thing where like, yeah, you could see how like a pitcher would seem as or more valuable than that.
Yeah.
But
Right.
Alonso was like, to me, like that, it makes sense. I would have imagined there'd be more than one vote for Soroka, though, for sure. I'm with you on that.
Yeah, I was. That's the only thing that got me is just there was one, and then he got like a lot of backlash for it
Yeah,
too.
there's always somebody that gets that, which is like, and sometimes that's deserved. You know, like the one guy
Oh,
that
yeah.
votes for like, you know, whatever, Ryan Zimmerman for MVP or whatever. But this is obviously like different than that. Like, there's a case to be made.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Let him have one, you know. Like,
Yeah.
you know.
The Braves are such a repellent organization, and yet like they have some
You're
really,
the second
really
person.
good young
You're the
players.
second person on the podcast in as many weeks to say that the Braves literally make them feel repulsed. Because
Yeah,
Trevor was like, well, if you're a fan of an NL East team, fuck the Braves, fuck the Braves.
And they have excellent players too. It's just thing with the Nats, where like the Nats are like just everybody that cheers for them is just like some like Nat-sec goblin or like literally on cable news. You know, like an on-air personality, like fucking like Chuck Todd being like, "I'm so happy. I love Tony Rendon. That's my guy."
We try not to bring down a fan base of a city that is a minority. They are a majority POC. You know, there are Nats fans who are black. They're probably just mostly Orioles fans. Because they grew up in DC.
Yeah. The Braves are weird because they're like the official team of like white flight. Like that's like their ethos as an organization.
Really?
Moving further
Well,
out.
they're the team of the South.
And they also like fucking cheated in ways that were basically like adjacent to human trafficking. Like they're gross.
That's true.
Dude.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. It doesn't. I think it's weird that they like that guy Coppola got the supposed ban for life, and then like it was the guy that replaced him was the dude that fucked up by being like, yeah, we're probably not going to sign anybody, and we checked with a bunch of other teams and they're not either. So it's just like popping off like unscripted on that, like whatever it is that they're doing, like it's just like that's clearly like an organizational commitment.
Yeah.
The NL East is a beautiful example of solidarity that we can all learn from. How every team's fan base in solidarity hates the Braves. Everyone else hates the Braves.
We can build on that.
Yeah,
You can learn.
There you go. Okay, it's you guys got your calls open. You guys got
Yes.
ready to play.
I can.
Oh right, hang on.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Yeah, it's
Do
very.
I have to mute?
No, you don't have to mute as long as you're in headphones. Yeah,
Okay.
Cool.
yeah.
I'm ready.
Okay. We're gonna play the one titled "Call One." We're just gonna play them in order.
Nice.
So. Okay.
Wait, so everybody's clicking it, or you're just going to click it and I'm going to hear it?
No, you click it when I say to click it.
All right,
You're
I'm
breaking
hovering.
kayfabe, Roth.
I'm
Okay,
sorry.
All right,
We're all,
Danny.
everyone thinks we're all in the same room. All right, we're ready.
Yeah. Okay, ready? Everybody hit call one now. Oh wait, it's not playing for me. Oh, because
Not me either.
I have the number. Okay, here, wait.
Center and
There
right
we go.
field, all of them,
What?
for the 2020
Wait, I'm
World.
starting it over.
Hey, I
starting
just
it over.
want to say that
Okay.
first
Jesus
Granderson
Christ, people.
is the starting outfielder,
Good
left
thing this isn't
center and
live.
right field, all of them, for the 2020 Chicago
Really?
White Sox. I'm going to hunt down Rick Hahn with a harpoon gun. Thank you.
Okay, so that was if Curtis Granderson is not playing all positions of the outfield for the White Sox, Rick Hahn must be guillotined. Thoughts? Is Curtis Granderson even in the league at this point?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is?
Yeah.
Okay. Was he on the
I'm
Mets
pro
this year?
Granderson without exceptions. No, he was a Marlin this year,
Oh.
which is kind of depressing.
Yeah, that's
Even
kind of
better.
where you gotta go, yeah.
But I think that he should come home to Chicago. I think that would be awesome.
He's never
and-
played there.
Yeah, but he's from there.
I know.
Yeah.
And he went
The
to
UIC,
USC.
The UIC like field is named after him. Like he's beloved. Yeah.
So he's, I
Who's
think,
a flame?
Yeah.
a flame legend.
Wow,
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, baby.
I think he's like the best dude to play baseball during, I don't know, the last decade or so. Like,
He's a fun guy.
if the-
yeah.
and the fact that he's still decently good, like he wasn't very good for the Marlins this year, but it was like,
Mhm.
Maybe.
I think he was probably, you could look this up, but I think he was like above, replacement level, maybe not by a lot.
Let's see where
But he was like actively good
Not this
the year
year.
before that. And
Yes.
he's like, he was,
Yeah.
but like fractionally.
This year, no. Last year, yes.
Yeah. So, that could go any number of other ways, but if you have to have like a fourth or fifth outfielder, which every team does, like why would you not get a guy that's like literally like the best human being that anybody could learn from and like a pillar of the community in which you play?
He's also a fellow blogger. He used to blog for Yahoo.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of how I learned to enjoy him was like, I was a big fan of the Yahoo blogs, like when I was in high school. And he would like do things where he'd be like, back home in Chicago, like ate like 9 hot dogs before the game. Like saw my mom, like it was really nice.
He's one of those things. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, David.
No, man, you were.
I'd rather have a sign. I'd rather have a Sox sign a guy like Curtis Granderson just for the point of having Curtis Granderson on the team, as opposed to like picking up guys like Yonder Alonso for the purpose of like trying to obtain Manny Machado at a lower cost. Like that's just some asinine moves. At least if you if you're not going to
hard on that,
right? And if you're not,
John Jay, just like.
Oh God! Like if you're not gonna sign a dude because you like what his production brings, then at least like let it be like something about his character as opposed to you think that he's gonna let you get some other guy and he's gonna give you $100 million discount.
Yeah, I mean, especially like at this point, Granderson signs for like the vet minimum or whatever. So it's like pay him $1 million, like he'll hit a couple homers and he'll help people figure out how to be human, especially on a team like that where like next year
so
it's
young.
like.
The Sox will be so young.
Luis Robert could be there. Like, there's gonna be guys that are like literally 20 years old. Like, get somebody in there that like isn't gonna ruin them for life by being a turd.
I mean, if he wants to teach Luis to play center field, that's cool.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. So that's down.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
We're ready for
I'm glad
call
to throw Curtis
You gotta power
Granderson
through him.
into it.
Ready
All right,
for call
ready.
2? Okay, and go.
Hey, this is Screamer Jim in Los Angeles. Long time, first time, calling for Roth, and mine is a two-parter. First, here are some guys to remember: Rick Aguilera, Benito Santiago, and John Nunnally. Second, Roth. If you had randomly found yourself with 30 seconds alone in an elevator with the Wilpons, what, if anything, would you say, or would you just have a stroke? Thanks. We'll take my call off the air.
Well,
Screamer Jim, a legend of online, in my estimation.
Oh, he's fantastic. The
one of our great
originator of
posters.
the bird tweet,
Yep.
which is an all-timer.
He's given us so much.
Yeah.
And of course, then he just gave me the opportunity to remember John Nunnally, which is great. Maybe the kindest thing that anyone's ever done for me.
I legitimately have no idea who that is.
So these guys are probably like, Nunnally was like not that good. He was a Met briefly, but he played for like a bunch of teams, like a fourth outfielder dude that would sometimes hit homers. Aguilera was good.
I remember
he was
him.
A Met, and who was in between? Benito Santiago.
Yes, he was also
hilariously flashy catcher dude. Are any of you old enough to remember him as like a starter?
Yeah,
because he hung around for
Yes.
For a long time, he was like a guy that was like a backup catcher, and he was like 38, but just would play at like just chains, like dripping, like he looked like fucking like ice in like 1989, like while he was out there, which was incredible, but it was a very different vibe than he had when he was a star. 30 seconds in the elevator with the Wilpons. It's a really delightful question. I would love to think that it would be some like John Wickian ultra violence. I think that I would probably just get upset knowing myself, and then maybe on the way out would say something like "solid team," but it would like come out real fucked up and it would lose the effect. If I'm being honest, I think that's probably what it would be.
Yeah, like I don't
David,
know what
have you
I
ever
would
seen
say to like Jerry Reinsdorf. Like I would just be like,
yeah, like what could you say to somebody that like doesn't care and doesn't like see you? Like Jerry Reinsdorf is like, I mean, that is not a guy that like there's no argument to be made there. Like the only thing we can do to him is just like hand him a sausage to eat, and he'd be like, "That's all it is. That's all he understands."
You ever seen the movie Drive?
No, I've not, but I know what you're talking about.
Oh, it's a beautiful elevator scene.
Yeah,
so we have to do
something
to
with
all
that.
owners if you see
kind of razor blade related action. I believe in that. Yeah, Fred, I almost feel bad for because he's just like an old guy that everyone's mad at all the time, which is like, you know, he should sell the team and then everybody wouldn't be mad at him. Jeff is the one that like I dislike more because he's got this kind of like weird like aggro fail son vibe. There's all stories about like Jeff getting in like Pedro Martinez's face and being like, "You're making this start whether you're hurt or not." And like just the idea of Jeff Wilpon being allowed to even talk to Pedro Martinez, I find offensive.
Incredible.
Like, it just doesn't. It's like a category error.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is my answer to that question. Screamer Jim's a king. Thank you for calling.
Go. All right, on to call 3, number 3. Are we ready? 1, 2, call 3.
Hey everyone, it's Michael from Indiana. You all are very handsome, and I love you all very much. This question's for David. I don't know you, but like, do you remember Orlando Hudson? All right, thanks. Bye.
Hello, David Roth.
Oh,
I'd just like to remember a few
Wait,
guys.
hold on. Sorry, I accidentally played the next one. Let's go. Do you remember Orlando Hudson?
Oh yeah, I remember Orlando Hudson. What a nice question to be asked. Yeah, I have.
Yes, I do. Next question.
Yeah, no, I do. I remember him well. But one of my coworkers at Tops when I was there played college baseball, and his like claim to fame as a pitcher in college baseball was that the longest home run he gave up in his life was to Orlando Hudson. And he never played pro or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like I think he like felt like he should have or could have or whatever. But yeah, that was like a story that he liked to tell, which I enjoyed. Was him being like Orlando Hudson hit a ball 510 feet off me, by the way. Like,
hell yeah.
That
He just prints that on he gets assigned Orlando Hudson to write, and he just like writes that on his card, the back of the card. Like, oh, by the way.
We were making cards for Hudson at the time too, because he was still in the majors. So it did have that element of like, you have that drill tweet where it's like, I have to go buy eye medicine for my grandpa, who's a model, by the way. Like that one. It's like sort of how it felt when you're like, whatever. He's like assigning an Orlando Hudson card to the writer. Something you should know about OrlandoUdson before you write this card. You fucking owned
home
me.
runs
like 8 years ago.
Orlando Hudson was a big trade for the Sox, right? In 08. Right?
Yep. No, it was 20. It was like 2012.
Oh, is that late? It was one of the
yeah.
All those kind of like all those
we got
until
Ken
Tim
Griffey
Anderson.
Jr.
I was gonna say until all those Tim Anderson, like basically from like Uribe to Tim Anderson, all those shortstops are just kind of like interchangeable to me. Like all men named Orlando or as Drew Bowl. Or like some kind of variation of like kind of the same name. They all had kind of the same profile as a player.
You sound kind of, I'm not gonna lie, you sound kind of racist right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say like for one thing.
That was the most Bill Simmons thing I think I've ever said in my life.
New drill tweet, everyone. New drill tweet. I type up fastballs aren't real. No, sorry, home runs aren't real. Home runs aren't real as I pitch a 93-mile-an-hour fastball right down the middle of the plate to Orlando Cabrera. I repeat to myself, home runs aren't real.
It's like throw my shitty changeup to Orlando Cabrera.
Yeah.
That works. It makes sense.
That was good.
Improve on that.
Okay, we got call number 4. Call number 4. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Right. There we go.
Hello, David Roth. I'd just like to remember a few guys. First, Placido Polanco. Second, Brian Giles. 3, Eric Young Sr. And also, did you know that in the books, Sonny Corleone had a huge penis? I'll take my answer off the air. Thank you. Bye.
Those are some guys.
This is Alex Keys.
Some guys, and then a bonus wang at the end of it.
Did you know that? Did you know that in the books, Sonny Corleone has a huge penis?
Because I read the book. And
right, yeah.
When I was in like high school. And what's funny about the book, as I remember it, is that like almost everything in the book is in the movie. The things that are not are repeated.
One thing
that Sonny's hung like a champ, and then also in the movie, you remember, you all have seen it, right?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So the beginning when he's like having sex with that woman at the wedding in like an upstairs room, that woman's a character in the book.
Mm-hmm.
And in the book, she gets like vaginal rejuvenation surgery.
Yeah.
It's like a whole thing that was like the one
Sonny's
thing that they
penis
took
so
out.
big it like ruins it.
Yeah, he destroyed. So that's like, that follows her journey back towards, which is, it's nice to
her journey to
unfold
redemption.
That. Yeah. It's actually really rather beautiful if you think about it. The other guys that were mentioned in there to me were like, Placido Polanco especially is like, they don't make guys like that anymore, like corner infielders that hit 8 home runs in a season. Like that's a very special and very rare and very valuable type of guy to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually have a funny Placido Polanco story. Is when I was growing up in Bloomington Normal, Illinois, we finally got a independent league baseball team when I was like 20, the year I turned 21, called the Corn Belters, and it's the Pioneer
It's a
League.
Can-Am League? All right, yeah.
Frontier
All right, that
League.
makes
It's
sense.
essentially the Can-Am League. Yeah, it's like the analog. And there's a guy on the team, the good guy on the team, his name was Daniel Cox. And me and my buddy started like a section for him because like they had Dollar Beer Night on Thursday. So we go on Dollar Beer Night, dress up, and we named ourselves the Cox Block. And we had signs.
I was wondering where you were going with that.
So Daniel Cox eventually, like in true independent league baseball star like fashion, came over, invited us out on the Corn Belters tab to the local like campus bar because I grew up in like a university town, and we go out with him and he's like talking about like he just gets us like totally wasted because he's got like this free tab. And, like I'm totally wasted, and he's like, I'm like, Daniel, like what's up? Like what's with the scouting situation? Like what's going on? He's like, yeah, well the Phillies are looking at me. I'm like, so like you think you're gonna be able to replace like Placido Polanco pretty soon? Like that's where you're at right now? And he's like, well, if you give me like a belt high fastball, maybe. And then he proceeded to try to fuck my girlfriend.
This is all pretty wholesome for a minor league baseball.
No. Yeah, then he immediately tried to fuck my girlfriend. Yeah.
All right. Good job, man.
But yeah, so yeah. That's my memories of Placido Polanco. Is how
I'm glad that you respected Placido Polanco, but not the sacred bond that you and your girlfriend had.
Yeah, no, you know,
it's tough.
Yeah, you know, that's baseball, right? That's like Bull Durham. That's Bull Durham right there. I was living Bull Durham. But yeah, do we have anything to say about Brian Giles?
Giles.
He's a brother, right? He's a brother, a baseball brother.
Yes, he's Marcus Giles' brother. Yeah, he had some really productive seasons. I don't really remember him. He always looked kind of mad, like he was that type of baseball dude.
Guy. Yeah, he was a
guy.
guy.
He was a good guy with the Pirates and I guess with the Padres too.
The Padres, yeah.
But yeah, like I don't have any real bright Brian Giles memories, but like he sure was a guy. That much is true.
He's definitely
Who was the other person that was mentioned in there?
What was the other one? I don't remember.
He was like a borderline dude for a while, but mostly in balance, he's a guy, I think.
I missed the other guy. Did we hear him?
Me too.
That's how
there might not have been another one.
Not time. No, there was one.
Was it Eric something Jr.?
Oh, Eric Young Sr.
Oh, yes, that's who it was.
Yeah, EY. I remember him. He's a Rutgers product, a New Jersey King, and that they don't have that many of those. But yeah, he was fun. He was like almost like very similar to the way that his son is, but better. He was like a proto Rocky, which is weird. That was like how the Rockies, like one of their first guys that they developed, was a dude that just hit the ball into the ground every single time and ran as fast as he could. Like you'd think that organizationally that Colorado might put less of an emphasis on that, but they're still figuring out how to be a baseball team up there, I think.
All right, and the last one is one that we had from last week, but it's probably the best call we've ever had. So I felt like we had to play it. We ran a little long with Trevor last week, so I didn't get to play it. Our friend Alex, he is giving us an XFL update. So 1, 2, 3.
Hello, this is Alex Keys in St. Paul, Minnesota, and this is your XFL update. The XFL season is starting, soon. So what are people doing? Well, they're quitting over how much they are or not getting paid. And frankly, it seems like, I don't know, they're not paying that much attention to the XFL, the people at the WWE, mostly because Saudi Arabia allegedly, held 200 of their employees hostage the other day. And it seems like people are going to be paying about $300 a game, which, is roughly how much it costs to get season tickets. Part of that doesn't add up. However, there is a merch shop on their website. So I will get back to you when when I have a hoodie to show for it. Love you guys. Keep up the good
I feel
work.
like I learned a lot.
That's our first
Alex
call.
Keys.
That's our first call with music. As a soundtrack.
Yeah. I like
when
that
it was.
I was just a football jam, just like an all-purpose football orchestral music.
The NFL films will never get old. That music will always be good.
We love Alex. Alex is the drill of our group chat, of our Southpaws group chat. He is the drill of it. So we love him.
No, that's good work he did there. I had no idea they were getting paid that little, although it makes sense. I mean, that's very much
they like half the league.
the McMahon way.
Because like apparently the only people they were paying were like quarterbacks, and like only like 3 of them.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, that's the salaries for everyone. Is these 3 guys? Like, what do you expect?
Like, look, call me again when you've got Landry Jones's name recognition. Maybe you'll get paid like Landry Jones.
Yeah.
Like, who are the guys that they're actually paying? Like, is it Landry Jones? They have some other quarterback that's like.
It's not Johnny. It's like I think Landry Jones is like by far the one.
That was their first signing. Probably Hackenberg, I bet.
No.
Also, didn't the quarterbacks didn't get drafted? They got placed.
They got assigned.
Yeah, they were assigned.
We got I've never Cardell Jones is.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the only other one I've ever heard of. Philip Walker, who the fuck is that?
Don't know.
Jordan
Hacklenberg is a Penn State guy.
Which one?
Christian
Hacklenberg's a
Hackenberg.
Penn
Oh,
State
is he
guy.
in there? He's not in this picture.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cardell's actually was a really cool college player. I liked him a lot.
Yeah.
I remember he also like owned a dude so hard that he deleted his account, which is always one of those rare moments on Twitter that you can appreciate.
Yeah, he wasn't.
But there was somebody that was like busting him on some like weird, like just some very racialized complaint stuff, and he just like responded to the guy, and it was like real like just called him on it very directly, and the guy was like, well, okay, fair enough, like I won't be on Twitter anymore, and just like, which is always gratifying to see somebody being like, well, I think I've learned my lesson here.
I don't need this product any longer. I've actually learned everything I need to know from it. So
about myself, which is that I'm bad. The quarterback
I have a lot to think about.
The guy that did the first Deadspin article after everyone was after everyone quit, that one guy, he just copy pasted that thing. He's like, I needed to learn from what I didn't have the support system.
So I really appreciate it. This is a really valuable experience for me. Thank you to the 2,500 people that called me a scab dickweed. I really appreciate that.
I definitely said something real bad to that guy that I kind of feel a little bit bad, but I was kind of like, come on, man, like
there's a part of me that just can't believe the XFL is ever really going to happen. Like that they'll actually.
Oh yeah, it's like Trump being president. Like that's like what it feels. It's the same exact feeling to me. That like
it's too stupid for it to really go down at all. But here we are too. So I kind of feel like it would be a good investment to get some merch in case it doesn't happen. Because if you've got like the equivalent of those like the old XFL things where you have like a Memphis Maniacs T-shirt with like 2 X's on it, like. I would want to buy that from you. That's a good investment. So if you wanted to do that with like whatever the 2019 version of the Orlando Rage is, like give it a shot.
I think that's how we maybe fund the next Deadspin is we hoard XFL merchandise and then sell
I'm gonna start selling jerseys, and I'm not gonna stop until we've got the millions of dollars to start a website. So if you want to buy my Lake Dawson Chiefs jersey, DM these guys. They'll get a percentage, and then they'll pass that information on to me. Not contact me directly.
Well, on that note, we figured out the world. We figured it all out. It's the XFL.
I knew we could do it.
Yes. Okay. Well, I don't know what to plug for you right now. You're still writing.
Yeah. I'm still writing. So just I guess like if you ever cared about Deadspin or the Deadcast or any of that shit, like we're working on it.
There is
like, so thank you for caring about it.
What's the Twitter account that's posting people's
writing? Oh yeah, dude, that's a good one. At @undeadspin.
On Deadspin, yeah.
Yeah. So for the time being, like as everybody freelances, that's when those pieces go up, that'll push it out. So like if you follow that, it's not the same because, for instance, a lot of us aren't writing about sports right now, but I guess which means we won. but we but like yeah, check for that, and then like eventually, Lord willing, that'll just like become the feed for whatever it is we're doing next. But yeah. Thank you thank you guys for having me.
Thanks for coming, Roth. It was awesome. I'm bummed that we couldn't have had like a more regular appearance. Like, I was like,
we'll do one when things are back to normal, and like we can skip all the like talking about media chat and really focus more on Benito Santiago.
Exactly.
As needed.
I realized I looked him up while we were talking. I realized the reason why I remember him is because he was an all-star in 2002 on the Giants World Series team, and I remember that. I remember him chugging around third at one point. He could not run.
Yeah, that was like 14 years into his career too. That surely surprised me.
For those who, the spirit still lives. The spirit still lives because on the Deadspin banner, 2 of the 3 articles that it shows on there are woman furiously shits on floor of Tim Hortons, and what did we get stuck in our rectums? So the spirit is alive.
Folks. Yeah, never believe that journalism doesn't matter. Important stories like that touch lives, change lives. I have to go.
You know where to follow Roth. We got him on there, David_J_Roth. Don't accidentally follow David Lee Roth. And I'm glad I didn't accidentally call you David Lee Roth, because Trevor did that, and so I'm gonna hold it above his
head. Great showman.
Yeah.
Trevor, I mean.
Yeah, Trevor's great. We had you guys back to back, so.
There's no other Stephen A. tweeter that you need to have on now. You can just go straight ahead.
Yeah. We've had the 2 best sports tweeters of all time, so. Thanks again, Roth. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
In the middle of all
this.
So.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks guys for having me, and thank you for doing what you do.
Yeah. All right. Hey everybody, just subscribe, do all that shit. You know where to find us. So until next week. Bye-bye.
See ya. Goodbye. What do I do now?